All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me tonight. My name is Renée Gendron, and I am the Eastern Ontario Coordinator with PARO. PARO is a nonprofit organization headquartered in Thunder Bay, but I myself am located just outside of Ottawa. We are federally, provincially funded, and our mandate is to support women entrepreneurs throughout the entire province of Ontario. And tonight's presentation basically has two sections. The first section is I'll be talking about how to thrive as a freelancer or solopreneur, depending on how you want to angle that. And then the second section will be a presentation on PARO services. And as I said, we are funded by the federal and provincial governments. Our services are free of charge. Just keep that in mind going forward. And one of the things that we encounter with when we deal with entrepreneurs, and we deal with entrepreneurs who kind of sort of have an idea about their business, and they talk to us to help refine whether or not they want to pursue that idea as a business or seek employment in that sector. Sometimes that's a critical decision. We work with that all the way up to helping build $1 million companies. So we do run the gamut of companies and what we work with. And one of the main things we encounter with our entrepreneurs is we need to understand where they fit in their ecosystem and how to develop their network, because businesses aren't developed in a vacuum. You need a circle of support around you. You need to have resources that you can draw on, and you need to have a base where you can either get referrals or get information on where to bid or get information depending on your business model, if there are grant opportunities or other sources of funding for you. And this is all done through information. Information is like, it takes a lot of time to comb through a lot of websites to find this information. And so your critical tool, your key tool in that is basically developing a thriving network. And to do that, we need to understand who your target market is. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but if you know who your audience is, who your customers are, then you start to understand who plays around them, right? What other companies interact with that market? What other professionals interact with that kind of client? And you get to know them, and you get to build bridges between yourself and other companies that interact in that space in order to be part of the broader community and in order to understand the trends and tap into resources for you. This is like a little bit of a basic fundamental thing, but you can understand your target demographics to understand their needs, their income, their location, their types. And when you understand them, I think, bear with me, I think I did something. No, I messed up my slides. You'll have to forgive me. Okay, so how do you be a good networker? We'll just go from here. How do you understand you want to be able to understand where they are, how to interact with them. And to be a good networker, especially when you're starting out, is to maintain a positive attitude. No one wants to interact with someone who is a Debbie Downer. Nobody wants to interact with someone who always takes a negative stance, who thinks that it can't be accomplished. Entrepreneurship is about 50% sweat equity and 50% belief in yourself and belief that you can achieve your goals. To be a good networker, the sort of polite things to do, you need to smile, you need to be polite, you need to listen more than you talk. I come from a business background, and it is incredible how many networking events I've been to where people were basically, prior to the pandemic, walk up to me, give me their card, expect me to take it, and then walk away to be able to give cards to other people. Well, I take the card because it's shoved into my face and I don't know what else to do with it, but it doesn't help me build a relationship. It doesn't help me. Yeah, it does drive you nuts. Right? So, you understand, Candace, that these people are in almost every networking event, regardless of the industry or the scale of business you're dealing with. And I can't build a business relationship with a card. It's great to have business cards, but I can't get to know your interests. I can't get to know your needs. I can't understand how I can be of support to you, either professionally or just courteous, professional to professional, if I don't know who you are as a person. And one of the things I find in many networking events is just how little people ask questions, like genuinely, are you genuinely curious about the other person? Hi, my name is Renee. I work for PARO. I do this. That's usually the sequence of events. And then they wait for you to go, hi, I'm Candace. I work at this company and I do that. And then the conversation kind of peters down, right? And it's like, well, what does your company do? Well, we sell trucks. Well, I don't need to buy a truck right now. So that's the end of the conversation. I was at a networking event in which so we're paying $1,000 a year to be a member of this networking group, plus the weekly lunches. I will not name the name. And you have a little local chapter, and once a week you meet the same 20 to 30 people, and you stand up every week. Hi, my name is Renee, and I do this. And one week, a person said, hi, I'm from this dealership, and we're having a promotion on trucks. And then another member of the same chapter, these people should know each other, they should be listening, of that chapter says, I'm actually in the market to buy a truck. Wow, right? The trucks are $50,000, $60,000, maybe more, depending on what you're customizing it. The person from the car dealership did not go up to speak with the person expressly looking to buy a truck. In my book, that's just bad business. Right? Like, why aren't you having a conversation? Because they're not listening. They weren't paying attention, and they simply were uninterested in getting to know what the other person wanted. And that's a commission. That's $60,000 that dealership could have had that week had the salesperson at that meeting bothered to listen. Okay. Tricks, even in the pandemic, it's kind of nice with Zoom because everybody's name is underneath their picture, so it's easier to remember names. But especially in live events, get to know people's names. People like to hear their names. It's it gives us a little bit of boost. It's like, yes, I'm special, I'm unique, I have that name. And again, we were trying to listening and trying to put this into people is to seek ways to help. My personal motto is I would rather build bridges than dig moats. It is so much easier to build a bridge because you get other people who are enthusiastic and want to help you build. Whereas if you're digging a moat, you tend to do it on your own. And it's very backbreaking, boring work. So how can you help that person? And helping that person isn't always about getting a sale. Unfortunately, people focus on getting the sale, except for the person who happened to be selling trucks and didn't want to sell trucks that week for whatever reasons. But the way to help is, well, can I keep my ear to the ground for funding? Can I keep my ear to the ground for a community event that you would be interested in? Is there something I can like or retweet or share on my social media, or maybe put into my newsletter? Is there other ways that I can be of support to you to help you as an individual or help your business grow and thrive? And when you seek ways to help, you're establishing credibility and trust. And no relationship can survive if you don't have trust. And trust is something that's been severely eroded in Canada and has been eroding in Canada for decades. If you look at surveys in how much do you trust politicians, how much do you trust political well, not political institutions, but like government institutions, how much do you trust the police, how much do you trust science, how much do you trust fill in the blank? And it's been decreasing for decades. And the problem is, if you don't have trust, there's no reciprocity. And it's very difficult to establish, create, and maintain a thriving business network or personal network if you don't have trust or credibility. If I'm not willing to risk an introduction, if I'm not willing to risk the price of a cup of coffee to go meet you at Tim Hortons to talk business or to see how I can help you, then you face situations in which you're going at it alone all the time. And if you go at it alone all the time, eventually you burn out and you'll never, it's just that much more difficult to reach your goals. And unfortunately, a lot of people expect others to trust them, but they don't trust others. I see this a lot. Like I used to do a lot of networking for other reasons, and I would be spending $5,000 to $8,000 a year going to different networking events in Ottawa. That's parking, that's breakfast, that's lunch, that's the price of admission to whatever event it was, $20, $30, $50. And it was incredible how many people I saw that they were part of the same networking group. They've been part of the same networking group for a year, 5 years sometimes. And they didn't know people's names. These are fairly small groups, 30 to 40 people. Over a 2-year period, you should know 30 to 40 people's names. After a 2-year period, you should at least have an understanding of what their businesses are. Well, Monica sells commercial insurance. She doesn't sell life insurance. Or Monica helps this kind of industry. That's her specialty, not that industry. You should have a nebulous, more than a nebulous idea. And I saw that happen in groups in which there was just no trust. And it became very difficult to share references and referrals and to engage in community building events and to basically improve the sort of collective group identity, because people weren't willing to risk the investment, the emotional investment, the psychological investment, and sometimes even the financial investment. You wanted to always have your logo on something, but are you actually going to help create the event? You always want to take customer referrals, but you don't want to reciprocate. And so it makes it very challenging to develop a professional network in which is reciprocity. And one of the things that I've noticed with the enterprises, especially you saw this in COVID too, where people in rural areas, this is particularly acute, people tend to have solid networks in which they've been doing business with the same people for the last 5, 10, 20 years. And then that maintains their core business, but they don't seek to maintain or create new relationships. They aren't curious about what's happening in the village over. They're not curious about what's happening with the trends, because the people that they deal business with, they don't participate in that, so they stay put. So in a rural area, you'll get a lot of situations where you'll have, well, I went to elementary school, I went to high school with these people, they are lifelong friends, and they also became my business partners or business associates or became part of my network, and I'm going to stick with that. And the thing is, it's good to maintain a core base of people that you know quite well and that you trust profoundly, but it also limits you in the amount of resources that you can access. If you're not curious about reaching out to the next village or the next town, if you're not curious about meeting more people at the annual conference of your industry or whatever it might be, you're running the risk that your referrals for that group actually run dry, or that you've missed completely a trend and it blindsides you and it cripples your business. I'll give you an example. So that we had a situation in Ottawa where there was an amalgamation of companies that dealt with organic waste. And you had a situation where you had a lot of small companies go around with compost and go around with like mulch companies, basically, to be able to sell that to garden centers. And it was kind of like a little good old boys club, a lot of little mom and paws. But one player came in that was quite large, and they entered the Ottawa market. And in the process of doing that, they disrupted these networks that had been established for long years. And in the process of disrupting those networks, all of the little mom and paws closed, not because the new entrant was that much bigger and not much more powerful, but the new entrant used technology and marketed things differently. And the other little more insulated networks couldn't adapt, because they had done one thing for 20, 30, 40 years. And that way there was no need to change until there was an absolute need to change, and they couldn't change fast enough. Those are some ideas as to why it's important to maintain a fluid network that's dynamic, right? That takes into account changing and evolving skill sets, changing market needs and different markets you want to go after. Now, if I can get this right here. One thing too is that to be a great networker, you have to understand that networks are dynamic. It's great to have the core base, but you also need to have an understanding that where you get your commercial real estate and how you get references and referrals for that is going to be radically different than how you get referrals for your residential real estate or your agricultural real estate, right? Those are different people, different needs, different asks. a lot of times people will just, when they're networking, they'll say, well, I'm looking for customers. Okay, great. Well, we're all looking for customers. Well, what kind of customer are you looking for? And while if I'm in real estate, I'm looking for someone, like first-time home buyer, right? This kind of standard thing. I'm looking for a first-time home buyer who is interested in living in this neighborhood in Ottawa, or who is looking to move from the GTA to Peterborough. I am looking, okay, I tend to work with customers who are 60 years old and up, and they're looking to downsize during their retirement. Okay, that's a clear ask. And it's great to have those kind of asks when you're dealing with somebody that you know can give you those kind of referrals, but not everybody is plugged into a network or has the family relationships or the community-based relationships to be able to provide you with support to find people who are 60 years old and older and looking to retire and downsize. So how do you tailor your ask? What does that look like? If you know that you're speaking with somebody who is plugged into the auto industry, well, what can you do as a realtor to ask that person to keep their eyes and ears open for? They might have some information on a community event that they're very involved in. They might have trying to find a cultural association that they're affiliated with that you might be able to draw resources from, or they might have some specialized knowledge having nothing to do with the industry, but just as a person, they have this as a hobby, and you might be able to tap into their knowledge and their perspective to help you reach a goal. Your audience shifts, your audience changes, and understand what they're shifting and understanding what they're changing to. Realtor, first-time buyers are perhaps not as common anymore, but there's an educational component to having and walking through a first-time buyer through their first home. There is a different component if somebody moves every 2 to 3 years because of their job, and there's a different service component that you need to be able to offer somebody in the military who moves every 3 years or 4 years. And so just to be mindful of how you present the information and the value add that you're offering. So your value add and what you're offering and your ask all go hand in hand, right? My name's Renee, and I'm looking for homeowners who want to put solar panels on their homes. Great. Okay. Well, what does that mean? That there's a higher risk, there's a higher cost, because sometimes that can be $20 or $30 or $40,000 depending on the size of the roof. It could also mean that you have to increase your credibility because it's not enough to be an electrical engineer. You also have to have a customer service component. There's probably also going to be a maintenance component, and there's going to be a house inspection component to make sure that the house that you want to install your solar panels on has a strong enough roof to be able to accommodate those solar panels. All service and value add and education and the actual product that you're offering, that all goes into your brand. And that all goes back to how well you can communicate your value add, how clearly and efficiently you can maintain and build trust, and how well and respected you are within your network. There's this little adage that goes around: know, like, and trust. I have to know you to be able to possibly do business with you. I have to like you enough to be able to refer business or buy from you. And I have to trust that whatever it is you're delivering to me as a service or as a product is actually what you say it is. And that all goes back to your branding. How much can I get people to like me as a person, or my Facebook page or my Instagram account, to be able to come back and say, you know what, I'm going to keep an eye on this company, even if I don't have a personal relationship with the owner or the employees or whatever. I still need to be able to come back to you and say, this is, I'm going to keep an eye on that. So know, like, and trust. A brand is the impression you leave. And a lot of times they'll say, well, here's my logo, or here's my beautiful branded website, or the sort of the promo items I give out, right? Oh, there's this one person in Ottawa, I look forward to speaking with them every time because they had the best pens ever. All right. Every time you would go to a networking event, you get the swag bags and you get all the cards. And also, this one person had the best pens. I just loved the way they wrote. And, but it's more than the impression you leave, right? It had a positive, an affirmation on it. It had their contact information, and it was getting people to talk with because they wanted these brilliant pens. But it's the impression and the conversation that comes after that, right? It's the ability to relate and to have positive feeling as a result of the interaction. Brands are destroyed by inconsistency. Everybody has a bad day, but there are bad days, and then there are days in which you've just destroyed your credibility in your career. So let's not have those days. Let's have days in which it's very stressful. It's a pile of emails you have to dig yourself out from under. There's a work and you don't even know where to begin. You still need to smile. And you still need to have the professionalism to say, you put an out of office email and say, I'm overworked, but politely, right? I am behind on emails. I am behind on my work. Please allow up to 3 business days for me to get back to you. Or you change your voice message due to high volume. I'm afraid I won't be able to get back to you until a week. Thank you for your understanding, right? There's a certain professionalism that goes into managing those high peak stress times that you can still inform your customers or your network or whomever. I can't get back same day turnaround for reasons, be polite, and but still keep that line of communication going. Being consistent in word and action, right? Under promise, over deliver, but make sure that when you do have constructive feedback in which the product or the service that was not delivered to customer expectations, there's a frank discussion, right? Don't slam the phone down on them. Don't just shy away from that conversation, because sometimes a lot of people don't like to receive, well, you could have done better. Like, okay, but how? And view those interactions as opportunities to grow and as opportunities to actually strengthen your brand, because everybody makes mistakes. Every company does. It's what you do with the information and the feedback to maintain that dialogue with the customer or your person in your network or whomever, in order to show that you are serious and you are professional and you are dedicated to exceeding expectations. Right? Under promise, over deliver. Now, keep your presence up to date. Depends on where your presence is. If you're exclusively online, I would recommend that you have 1 or 2 platforms, unless you have a professional social media person that just does this 9 to 5. Keep your 1 or 2 major platforms where you get most of your referrals, and by referral, you want your cash flow coming from that. That's what you keep up to date. If you can only manage one platform, great, but do it extremely well. If you can handle Twitter and Facebook and have regular posts, depending on your frequency, that's great, but they have to be engaging posts. They have to have value added posts. And you can tell that by how much engagement you're getting, how many likes, how many shares, how many questions. If you're following your click rate through, which pictures or which links or which content are you putting through that gets you the most return on your website, or orders, or free consultation requests, what have you. A lot of customers or our clients tend to spread themselves across all platforms without understanding how each platform attracts a different audience. Even if we have writers on Twitter and writers on Facebook and writers on Pinterest and writers on everywhere else, your particular audience isn't going to be across that. Test the waters, and where you have the most traction, go with that and build your presence there, and make sure that your online presence is consistent with your physical presence for when people interact with you, so that there's not the shock factor. If you're all sweet and polite on Instagram, right, all nice pastel colors and things, and everything's polite and you're very responsive, and then you are almost like dead wood at a networking event and you just sit in the corner and you don't want to deal with anybody, that really hurts you. And it's just to be consistent. So I've rambled on a little bit, and I'm giving you some suggestions. If you're a freelancer, And if you're trying to find the balance between getting enough referrals from your network and bidding on work, those can be parts of your growth strategy or your cash flow maintenance, depending on the services that you offer. And if you're looking for gigs, or if you're looking for ways to offset dips in cash flow, I'm just going to throw some websites. Okay, thank you, Candace. No, okay. Business is a passion. Okay, I really do want to see people thrive in business. So where do you find work online to either mitigate the dips in your cash flow or to just build that into your business model? Contracts for photographers, and I'm using this as an example because photographers really are freelance. It's very difficult for them to use to get 9-to-5 work. And so I'm just using, it could very well be an artist, it could be a content writer, it could be a marketer, even like social media, where they just get small contracts. So photographers is just an example. You can look at Upwork as a way to get gigs. Upwork is extremely competitive. They have an algorithm that vets your portfolio. You have to put in whatever projects you worked in, and you have to really show that your mettle, as it were. But if you are in, if the algorithm accepts you, there is a ton of work available. Fiverr is another place where you can do some freelance work. This one, the trick with Fiverr, the trick with Fiverr is to have your portfolio and your service offering be very clear and then drive traffic there. The more traffic you can drive to Fiverr through your social media accounts or through your newsletters, the higher you're ranked in the page layout. And it's critical that when you've got your 10 or 15 gigs, even if they don't approach you through Fiverr, if you want to make this a staple, make sure that you direct your other gigs through Fiverr, so you get the confirmed brokering through the website, and then you get the recommendation through the website. The more recommendations, the more times that people have used you through Fiverr, the higher you'll be placed on the page rankings, and you'll go from page 1,000 and the algorithm will bump you up into the first page or second or third. So when other people that you don't drive to your website can find you through there. Okay. Freelancer.com, another website. FlexJobs is entirely telework. There is a fee to doing that job, to being on that job board, but there are a ton, even pre-pandemic, of freelance jobs, part-time jobs, all work from home. And the entire premise of that website is to have the ability for workers to have a flexible schedule. Some of them are, you have to work 9 till noon for the contract, and other ones are, you work the contract when it fits your schedule, provided you meet the deadline. So there's some flexibility to offset your dips. LinkedIn actually has a very powerful job search tool. You can have a lot of parameters to set your location, your flex time, your seniority level, your income, which geographic area you want to work in, or and a couple of other things, like a couple of other parameters that you can do it. So LinkedIn, even on the free version of LinkedIn, it is extremely powerful, and you don't need to join a LinkedIn group per se. You don't need to spend time developing content to put in those groups or to put into your feed. You simply need to do the job search function there. Indeed.ca has actually increased and diversified the jobs that it does include. Some of them are remote, some of them are part-time, but when you look at the parameters of what they mean by part-time, they actually mean like 3 days, or they need something for a month. So it's like short-term contracts as well. Filter it and play around with that. Kijiji does also post, and so do Craigslist. They also have little gigs, little in need of, in search of, half a day here, 2 days here. If you use Kijiji and Craigslist, and quite frankly, I would apply this to all of the job boards listed or not, personal safety comes first. If you meet with the client, do so in a public setting, do so at a restaurant or co-working space. Use your own judgment, but again, be safe about how you interact with clients and how you meet online. and Glassdoor. Glassdoor also has some gigs, and it also has part-time work. And it has a decent search engine to be able to filter, but it also has a very good alert warning system to be able to feed you like jobs in your previous search, and you can filter through that. We deal, because it's PARO, we deal with businesses, right? And just to have your portfolio ready, I believe in organization and I believe in standardization. That saves you time. The more time you save, the more money you earn, because you're not duplicating your work. You're not kind of cycling through things. You need to actually have your portfolio that you're selling, your resume, your references à portée de main, right? Portée de main. You need to have them on hand so that you just pull and pull this kind of project, these 3 references, this kind of project, those 2 references, and they just become like part of a standard kit. Have a clear conceptual understanding of what you're pitching, and time to put the proposal together, and then follow the steps of the actual submission. I know some employers, because of the pandemic, and they're just like, anybody who shows up, I'll take. They will basically ask 3 standard questions. Just make sure you answer those 3 standard questions, and don't send anything else. Or they want you to go through their website, and they want you to go through their own procedure, as it were. Okay. So pro tip, keep track of where you've submitted to, of where you're networked, and your success rates. And this, I included this bit into the networking component because some people will forward you this information. Hey, Candace, I saw this RFP, I saw this request for proposal. I thought it might be of interest to you. If you keep track of where your submissions are going, who's referring things, that's who you play well with. And that's who you want to help. And the more you help them, usually the more they help you back. And if you keep your eyes open as you're going through all of these other sites, because you go back to I have to go back all that way. But the first thing where I said you have to listen first, as you're going through all of these sites and you've listened to your network, you can pick up some gigs, or you can pick up some opportunities that you can then send to other people. He's like, well, I don't know what to do to help you out. I don't know clients who are 60 years old and older and retiring and wanting to downsize out of the GTA. But because I know you and I've listened, when I'm going through other things and daily activities, I can pay attention to this stuff and send in where as appropriate. There was a point, I promise. So, photographic skills, we're just going to pick with that. Different niche markets, for example, enter a photography show, collaborating with other photographers for an exhibit, applying for arts grants, and photography. Now, this is part of networking, and this is just an example so that you can get your head around it. The reason why I included this is because you're likely going to need different networks in order to accomplish these different activities. The people who would buy corporate headshots aren't necessarily the people who you could sell a photography show to. And as you're developing your business as a freelancer, as you're developing your solo entrepreneurship company, understand that you need to have a diversified network to be able to support the different aspects of your business. And you can collaborate, for example, with other photographers for an exhibit, and how you market that, how you gain resources for that, perhaps in terms of a grant to be able to hold that, is going to be very different as to how you get corporate clients in order to do headshots. And that kind of C-suite level, that HR that you need to contact with, because they're the ones doing the security passes, that whole HR network is going to be very different than the network you need to, say, do weddings. If you're doing photography also for weddings, and for weddings, for example, you need to know event planners, you need to know venues, you need to know niche services that are for weddings. So bridal shower people, or bridal dresses and tuxedo people. And so you can tell I don't do weddings very well. Right? But those kinds of people, to be able to still have your business as a photographer with a capital P, those are different networks. And those come down to, what are you asking each segment of your network in order to build your business and to make sure that you can reciprocate whatever help and value add that you get. I hope that makes sense. in terms of why you need to kind of maintain an active and vibrant network, and to understand that your different service offerings are going to resonate with different people, and you need to just kind of figure out, like on a sort of strategic level, how to maintain that diverse ecosystem within your business and professional network. Pardon me. Okay, that was a mouthful. All right, so selling a book as another example, right? Different services that you could sell as a photographer, but how you approach selling summer camps for children in photography, again, is likely going to connect with schools, connect with parents associations, connect with community centers. And that's going to be a different sell than trying to sell a wedding photography package, right? Yeah. Generate revenue. Usually for solopreneurs, in terms of making sure that your cash flow is steady, you usually need to have 2 or 3 target markets. And by that, I mean niches, like subdivisions, right? If you're dealing with professional services, for example, if you're a life coach or a leadership coach, you can offer individual coaching sessions, or you can offer group coaching sessions. The same package, same content, same skill sets, but it can appeal to a different kind of customer base. And again, to your diversification of your skill sets and how you approach the networking. You can be a trainer as well, and you can be a professional speaker. How you gain speaking gigs as a professional speaker, you're probably going to have to go through associations and speaking bureaus, associations like the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers, CAPS. And if you're training, well, it depends who you're training. If you're training at NGOs, or are you training at corporate level, or are you getting individuals to do little retreats that they go away in the woods for 1 week? That's a different kind of network that you need to be a speaker versus to be like a retreat specialist, right? And that's why I'm saying, especially when they're small, to make sure that you've got a couple of these different niches going at the same time, because you'll hit a streak where everybody wants to buy group coaching sessions for leadership. And that's great. That's all you're doing for 2 or 3 months, and it's all bread and butter, and it's all fantastic. And then for reasons we can't always explain, that market crashes, and you're going to need something already in the works, already developed, already there to counter, to be able to offset the dips in that revenue. And if you're selling a product, just to kind of give an idea how you can use the same product in different markets, rubber mats used to cushion workers who stand all day versus the same rubber mats to keep from getting cold, right? If you're in the garage, or if you've got an old house and you can't carpet the house or put it in a subfloor, you've got rubber mats to keep the feet warm by the sink in the house, kind of thing, right? Okay, I'm just mindful of the time. Yeah, all right, so we'll too much of a ramble. All right. The 4 pillars of every successful business is a product or service idea that people actually want to buy, the capacity to create your product or service, connectivity, right? Networking, relationships, know, like, and trust. You reciprocate, you want to grow and to reach those customers, and then resources. And this is the kicker. This is the stronger your connectivity, the more resources you can connect with, because people are likely to barter with you. People are likely to point you to the direction of grants or contracts or other things that you find useful that would be able to grow your business. So if anything, think of a thriving network as an ability to draw and generate resources to be able to help you reach your goals. Okay, and that was that. We've endured, and we will survive. And the external obstacles to entrepreneurship, because PARO deals with women entrepreneurs throughout Ontario, we're very much plugged into these policy discussions and these programs. And there are recent studies that basically say that the lack of funding is the #1 reason why women don't start businesses. And as our mandate, we're there to develop resources and connections with our clients, between our clients, to receive access to funding, grants, loans, and access to one another to be able to support each other in network. I am the Eastern Ontario coordinator. I am based just out of Ottawa. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of an overview of our services. Everybody in this presentation is welcome to contact me afterwards for, it's basically a free pass to participate in the PARO Go Forth. It is an online business 101 course. It is available 24/7, learn at your own pace. You're then coupled with a free business growth advisor, and you would then take whatever content that you're learning in the course and say, well, I want to pick somebody's brain as to how I can apply that lesson into my business. And then it would just be free counseling if you want it. We offer mentoring opportunities. We offer networking opportunities, free business coaching. I don't know why I put and peer lending as well, webinars, and support to find grants and other funding. I'll show you a map, but I think I did it backwards. Okay. Peer lending circles. We are the largest peer lender in North America. And what it is, it's peers lending between organizations. PARO as an organization provides the grants, and we've got funding partners such as Alternative Savings that provide the loans. And if you want to be part of a peer lending circle, it's 4 to 7 women. The primary purpose of this circle is to provide accountability and support. Stage 1 is $500 grant, $500 loan. Stage 2, $1,000 grant, $1,000 loan. Stage 3, if you so choose, is a $3,000 loan and a $5,000 loan. Karen, thank you so much for participating. I'm very grateful. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening. The process to be able to join a circle is very simple. You contact me, I help introduce you to other ladies, and then we just kick it off from there. There's some administrative steps to follow, and then you can go from there. Like I was saying with the PARO Go Forth, it's continuous business learning, it's online learning, it's free, and some of the things that you would learn is how to identify your unique selling proposition, how to calculate your costs, how to address the legal aspects if you have any regulatory aspects, or how do you manage all of that? How do you find grants, tax information? Taxes are always fun, daunting sometimes. So that's baked into the cake, into the Institute. Okay. We are here to support the position of your company, regardless of the position. You might be ideation. It might be, this is a permanent part-time job, or it might be, you know what, I'm making 150,000 and I want to grow that up to $500,000. Wherever you are, we're here to support you. And we have specific programs, but as well as support to help develop your export markets. We have trade missions that went to the United States, and we were plugged in quite well with a trade mission that went to Australia and New Zealand, and then another virtual trade mission to go to France. So depending what you're doing, we have networks and supports that are behind the scenes for these kinds of activities. Okay. We are on wheels. Prior to the pandemic, we would go to rural, remote communities, right? By remote communities, I mean fly-in Aboriginal communities, as well as all the way up to Moosonee. And I'm testing your geography, right? Moosonee is just on the not the Hudson Bay, but James Bay. And that's a good trek up there. But we would send up counselors to go see our clients up there. And as a sort of overview of who we are, we've helped over 22,000 women entrepreneurs thrive. In 1 year alone, we helped women get just under $8 million in grants. And we've, in 1 year, we helped create over 500 businesses by coaching, by mentoring, by peer circles, our support systems. We deal with women. And as a result, we also have deep networks in wraparound supports. If you or anybody you know is dealing with domestic violence, we have supports to provide for housing security and income security, and so, help to transition out of that violent situation. We're everywhere, right? We're in Ontario. We have an office, a co-working space in Ottawa, and these are our funders. Okay, so I am going to stop the share so that I can turn off the video. Bear with me.